Okay, let's get to what everybody wants to know, the Raven feud. So, you debut on WCW television. This is Nitro, July 7th in Memphis, interrupting Iron Mike Tenay, trying to get answers out of Raven, who had just started appearing in the crowd, but was unresponsive to all questions. I don't know if this was like week 2 or week 3 or whatever he was doing, but you only debuted like a week or two after he did. So, you run in from ringside and you hop the guardrail. You grab the microphone and you say that Raven won't talk to anybody apart from his dear, close, personal, long-time friends. Which is a shame that Mean Gene wasn't out there when you said that line. You ask Raven if he signed with WCW, which was the hot question at the time, and he gives you a hard slap across the face. Quite hard. I actually wrote verbatim in the script. You then tell Tenay that you told him Raven didn't want to be interviewed, then you shove Tenay. So let's talk about this debut. I've basically just given you a full synopsis of what happened. But what were you told to do before you went out there? Was that verbatim? Did you just sort of just make it up on the fly, as was the way wrestling was in the 90s?
Yeah, there was no script with this. That was something, and that was a Mean Gene thing. That's a great Easter egg because that's exactly why I said it. I was trying to plant a seed to work with Mean Gene, and we talked about that segment where Raven tore up the contract. We had J.J. Dillon and Mean Gene out there, and I was like, this was a bucket list moment for me. So I was trying to put it out in the universe that I really wanted to do something with Gene. The mistake I made, and I have to apologize, which I've already apologized to him, and posthumously, I'm going to do it right now. Scott Hall was doing something with Larry Zbyszko at the time, who was a commentator on Nitro, remember? Mm-hmm. And they were doing an angle. And what I did was, and I understand this, once again, immaturity, getting excited, I put my hands on Mike Tenay. I shoved him, which was not none of that was really rehearsed. But when I shoved the microphone and shoved him away, that was wrong. And people might think, well, that didn't mean anything. It was just kind of a throwaway thing. But you definitely want things to stand out as special. And that muddied the water a little bit with the announcer wrestler angle with Zbyszko and Scott Hall. As a matter of fact, Scott Hall grabbed me, not in a mean way. He goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I had a big angle with Zbyszko. You shouldn't put your hands on a..." He was coaching me. He just like shook my shoulders. He's like, "No, you don't do that. You never put your hands on a non-wrestler unless you're building towards something like that." And I was like, "Scott, I'm so sorry." And he was like, "No, just don't do that again. We got a good thing going on. I know you didn't know, but for next time, just don't let it happen again." I said, "I promise, if something like that even comes up, I'm going to try to clear it. If you're doing something, clear it. And I'm just not going to do it again." And he said, "It's cool." He walked away, turned back, and he goes, "By the way, Kev's still mad at you." So I was like, okay. Anyway, but dude, that was something, a hard lesson to learn. And I know the theme of all this is an immature young kid kind of being put out there and failing a lot more than succeeding. That's why, and I've mentioned it multitude of times, and I will in the future, these kids are getting 6-7 figure deals in their 20s to be on TV and pay-per-view. We got to give them a little bit of grace. It is a crazy pressure, high pressure situation for people that are really, really young to handle all that. So I didn't handle it well, and I wasn't even making a ton of money. So I give them a lot of credit.
Did Raven hit you hard? Because he seemed to always hit you hard.
He was taking liberties.
Yeah. Right, let's go to the Clash of Champions. This is 34. It isn't the one that you and Raven would wrestle on. So, July 12th, Raven cryptically talks about being or not being Diamond Dallas Page's tag team partner in an upcoming match. If it's the one I'm thinking of, the Giant, Big Show, ends up being his tag partner. Anyway, you are then stood in the background. And 2 days later on WCW Nitro with you in the background once again, Raven, and this is all in the crowd, by the way, you sat front row and Mean Gene's interviewing. Raven says his only announcement is that there is no announcement. And then you say, "Hey boss, you told me if I signed with WCW." And then Raven cuts you off. Raven spits in your face and pushes you over. All the while Gene Okerlund screams, "He's abusing him like a child." I mean, it sort of says more wonders, for Gene Okerlund's upbringing than anything else on that one. But What? Okay, what was the story explained? Well, you told me if I sign with WCW. So obviously you're laying out the seeds of something to be explained later that I don't know if ever was. But what were you getting at?
Wait a
with
minute,
the
are you talking?
thing?
Are you talking about this? Is the one I was just talking about, the bucket list segment with JJ,
It's not.
Gene,
No, no,
and
no. There's another one with JJ.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember this one. No. I remember the one where I said I got him a rental car with a cassette tape in it and everything for the long drives. He's making almost as much money as me. That was my favorite. No, I know there was multitude of ones or multiple ones. I don't remember that one because he spit in my face on that one and then pie faced me and tearing the contract up before that.
All right, so we had to take out 6 or 7 minutes there so Stevie could watch that bit of an interview that he had no memory of, apparently.
But I did have the chronological order, right? Where
Yeah.
the one where he spit on me and I blocked the punch was right before the Clash of Champions match. This one we just watched for Patreon, there's like 3 or 4 watch-alongs baked into one compilation right now, was the one where Raven, using Mean Gene's terms, abused me like a child. And you get a kick out of that.
Well, so did the child, apparently. Right, so what did you mean then? Have you got any memories of the story that was going, hey, if you told me if I signed with WCW, and then he cut you off? So I'm wondering if there's like a little Easter egg or some kind of story that was never explained that you remember now.
No, this was just, I think we were only buying time until he became, I mean, obviously he signed his deal. It wasn't a legitimate thing. Sometimes it is in wrestling where they're trying to get you to sign right up to the last minute and pushing you. I think Punk was a little bit closer than most had been when he was leaving the company with the title. He had signed the contract before Money in the Bank, but it wasn't a long time before that. So it really was kind of reality-based TV. What Raven, he did sign before he debuted, and then all this was a storyline. I really don't think, I mean, he was getting more over than I think they counted on, even early on. And they just didn't know what to do with him at that point.
Let's go to the Clash of the Champions. So this would continue for weeks after the fact, but this would be your third match with WCW because you would wrestle Scotty Riggs, defeat Scotty Riggs. He had the boo-boo face, if I'm rightly remembering, that he was doing the job, I guess, as you would say, in wrestling. And then you would face Raven. Clash of the Champions 35, the very, very last Clash of the Champions at the Municipal Auditorium, Nashville, Tennessee. Now, this is one of the matches that we watch for the Patreon exclusive types. So go to the Stevie Richards Show Patreon if you want to see Stevie sort of relive it in real time, including the pain he was in with his neck. And talk about what sort of led to this match, because you weren't, I guess, anticipating you'd be wrestling this early. Now you are wrestling this early. You can already tell your body's not taking it, but that's more for the Patreon, I guess. For this, where did you see the creative going? And did you already know at the time that Raven was unhappy, sort of reliving 1995, when apparently he wanted to do something new? And what about you as well at the same time?
He never looked very happy to be paired up with me anyway, even in the ECW. So it was very much personally a clash of two very different personalities. I spoke about it before. He got somebody that has a lot more life experience than Raven. It's a lot more ingrained into certain things than an immature, like real life clueless putz in ECW that doesn't understand and learns everything the hard way. Even at 53, I seem to learn a lot of things the hard way. But looking at this, and this is my confusion. If you didn't want to put the act back together again, why did you even pitch me? Because it was Raven playing that role. And obviously I was going to serve a purpose to protect his gimmick, to protect him from doing the jobs, protect him especially from doing jobs and taking bumps and any physicality, to make his character have the mystique that it deserved to have in WCW. Now, Raven wanted to surround himself with more malleable characters and people and human beings that would listen to what him and Paige and other people told him to do. I was a little bit more of the way of getting compliments from the boys and working with them, especially on those worldwide tapings. And a compliment from Bischoff, I think, kind of this is my speculation, put Raven's ears up. Oh, you're not going to take this kid from me. I need him to do whatever. but Raven was not happy with that. Perry Saturn also was somebody Raven wanted in the flock. So there was all these things going on. And I can't quite put a kind of like A, B, C, D, the order of events or anything. It was just every week was some kind of like butting of heads with Raven and myself. Then this match at Clash of Champions came up, and I was not sure. But dude, look at it this way. I'm going to be on national TV. I'm going to be on, Clash of Champions was a big deal. I remember the first one with the draw between Flair and Sting. I remember all the awesome matches I saw on Clash of Champions. So from a wrestling fan or a Mark perspective, I'm like, I'm going to be on Clash of the Champions. And little did I know that I was going to be responsible for killing Clash of Champions. So, man, I had it was like a bucket list thing, I guess, in a lot of ways that I didn't even know. So as we were talking the match over, or as it was leading up to that night to talk the match over, I knew that, like, wow, this was not going to be anything that is going to serve me at all, or I'm not going to be able to, how can I put it? This is going to be a big regression. It was already a regression going back to the character, but now I'm going to be knocked down a few rungs even more, because I wasn't sure until I said to Scotty Raven, when he said, here's the match, here's what we're going to do, basically a squash, I'll give you a little bit here and there. I said, I understand that part, but basically I stood up to you. We had this match. You're squashing me. I understand where you're at and where I'm at. But how are the fans ever going to believe in me if I stand up to you again or stand up to you again? I'm not going to use the exact terminology. There's a lot of swearing and cursing. But basically, he goes, the only reason you were brought here and brought into WCW was to be my $85,000 a year job boy, curse word, swear word, curse word, swear word. Shut your effing mouth and just do your job, or I'm going to get you fired. His exact words were, I'm going to talk to Paige, he's going to talk to Bischoff, and I'm going to get you fired. And that's what it was left at. Now, Raven and I, let's put this in context. Maybe present day, Raven and I are not on speaking terms, are not on super friendly terms, but we reconciled and more after that during WWF, WWE, even later on, we became friendly. Raven's always going to be Raven. I'm always going to be me. He's going to have his personality. I'm going to have mine. They're never going to jive completely up. We're not going to be best friends that go out to dinner all the time, but there was years and years after that where Raven and I were on very friendly terms and put that behind us. So let's talk about that in present time, that we squashed all the beef from back then and created new ones.
How do you think the match went in the end? Because we just watched it for the Patreon.
Well, I definitely could have did a better job. I think Raven did an excellent job. Raven got over, fans got on their feet. They loved the fact that he got the DDT. You even asked, he goes, you asked Orton, like, who's the baby face? I said, well, I'm supposed to be, but they're cheering Raven. I mean, they want Raven to win that match.
Yeah, did you think the creative, because obviously it's WCW and they weren't really known, apart from Hogan and Sting, they're not really known at this time for, taking their time with storylines. Do you think it was a bit of a quick turnaround? Because, Raven establishes domination over you several weeks in a row, then this match, then you stand up to him, and then this match, and then later on you're teaming up with him. So it's and we'll talk about this in a minute as well. There are matches where, or we can talk about now. There's the Randy Savage match where he attacks you afterwards. There's the Damien 666 match, which is before the Savage match, where he attacks Damien, and then he attacks you. I don't know if it's after a Dallas Page match.
After the Page match, also. To me, that wasn't bad. You know why? You're confused and you're kind of interested and you're intrigued by. It's an abusive relationship. It's kind of like a big brother, little brother thing. Like, I can beat him up all day long, but don't you beat up my little brother. That's my little brother. That kind of made, out of everything, that kind of made the most amount of sense. Now, after the Clash of Champions, and this is where the injury to my neck started to fester up, the immaturity, the emotionality or the emotional decisions that could come going back to ECW, because it was kind of laid out to me by Raven. He hinted and then he kind of put it in my face a few times. This is the beginning of the end for you here in WCW. Like, I'm outliving my usefulness because now Sick Boy, Kidman, Perry, Hammer, these people start to come in. He wanted Riggs. That's why we had the match, because he wanted it to get to the point where Riggs would be blinded in one eye, have the patch, be repackaged, and be part of the flock. You saw the seeds being planted with that, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So in an interview that Raven gave that I saw, I don't know if it was, what are your memories of? You know, one of those kind of interviews. He says that he didn't want Scotty Riggs in the flock. So he's flipped. So he told you he did want him, and then he said in this interview he didn't want Scotty Riggs. He said the only people he wanted. I'll save that actually for a minute, but apparently
let me stop you right there. I think he told Scotty he wanted him, but it might have been because might as well go along with it. So I'm assuming that Scotty Riggs was part of the birthday club with Paige and part of that whole group. That Paige was trying to politic to get him into the flock.
The birthday club question and answer is going to be next week as well, so that'll be interesting to discuss. Once again, with the contract, so we're talking weeks after the Clash, you turn up, try and give a contract and try and get Raven to sign it, and then once again he spits in your face and then you stop punching and etc. I'm going to move on to a couple of different things after this, but what were you two doing on house shows at this point? Were there practically no house shows still?
No, I don't recall there being more than one handful of house shows, if any. There might have been in like a Duluth or a Roswell or something in the Georgia area, which was the stronghold at the time for WCW. I don't remember. Might have been Mississippi. There was a house show, possibly.
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, you wrestled Scotty Riggs. That's your last match recorded that we know of in WCW, 4th of November.
House show?
House show.
I don't remember that. I really don't. Today, CTE, you got me. I don't recall that, but I do recall that after that Clash of Champions thing, and there was no hope. I was looking around saying, okay, if I'm on my way out of this thing, and obviously I'm being pushed out of the flock, can I latch on to Kevin Nash? Can I redo the big Stevie Cole thing? Can I do something with somebody else? Can I go away and come back? Can I get the surgery? There's all these different fluid kind of thoughts that there's no predictable outcome. It's just really a day-to-day thing. And my neck is getting worse, and I'm starting to have conversations with Terry Taylor about it. I'm like, man, my neck is I'm really starting to feel it. So all this different inside and outside the ring stuff by the way, I keep repeating it. A young guy in his 20s without a clue, immature, not having proper business sense or perspective. What do? I'm basically in full reactionary mode of what's going on around me.
What was, assuming there was ever going to be a full, proper conclusion to this story, what was it going to be, to the best of your knowledge?
I had no clue.
It sort of just ended, really, didn't it? I mean, it didn't seem to be like a big blow-off. That, you know,
oh, you mean with
warranted.
Me? I left WCW. I was still kind of part of the flock, but you could see them putting new, fresher faces in there, and me being, even with the seating, usually I would sit right next to Raven, but then it would be, I would sit back 1 to 2 rows back, and you have Perry next to him, then Kim. I'd be very much in the background, and then I started, like, dude, I got to make up some signs. I made up the signs like Disco still lives with his mom and dad or whatever, and all that stuff, or Disco versus Jacqueline, female versus female, stuff like that. I was trying anything I could do to get myself noticed, because they started putting me, dude, for all I know, I would end up like up there with Sting in the rafters soon. By the way, we did it. We wanted to do a pre-tape, and I don't know if we actually did it. I think this is where you don't know if you did it or didn't do it, but you wanted to. I kept saying that Sting or Raven was cutting a promo alluding to Sting because he wanted to work Sting. And I was like, Sting gets a duck. Why can't we get a duck? I want a duck.
Why? I've already forgotten what I was going to say. Yeah, okay, right. So, like, Raven's unhappy with, rehashing something from 2 years ago. You say in the show that, you're uncomfortable, or you would have been uncomfortable being the BWO version of Stevie or a version of that because you were too young at the time, that you didn't think you could carry it off at that point in your career. So if Raven's unhappy with, one, he's the one who suggested it, we figure, to Terry Taylor, Kevin Sullivan, whatever. But two, then he's doing the exact same thing with the Flock. It's the exact rehash of the Nest, of Raven's Nest in ECW, just with some different faces. So why was he so gung-ho to do that, and yet complaining elsewhere?
Well, I think because this is just my speculation. This has nothing to do with the in-ring stuff or the presentation of the character. He could boss those guys around a little bit better. Him and Paige together, they had more of a power play. Plus, if you notice any Raven match, and one of the best ones, I think the best match, and we can talk about that and watch that for Patreon, the best match Goldberg ever had outside of maybe Hogan was against Raven when he won the U.S. title. You got to give Raven credit for that, a lot of the credit. But look at the ending. What was it? It was the Keystone Cops of everybody just bumping for Goldberg so Raven could take less bumps and come in and boom. That's what he wanted. He wanted malleable characters that could just be legitimate roadblocks and bump dummies for Raven. And that's what they were.